Good afternoon everyone. I'd like to welcome you to Taronga Zoo and to our giraffe exhibit. My name's John. I'm a keeper on the ungulate division. Now ungulates is just a word which means animals which have hooves, and being an ungulate, this means that although giraffes are extraordinary looking creatures, they're not really as unusual, as strange as you might imagine. In fact, a giraffe shares many of the basic features of as a familiar domesticated hoofed animal, like a cow or a goat. The reason why giraffes look so different is because of the height at which they feed. Those giraffes over there are feeding at about 2 to 3 meters above ground level, and these poles that this giraffe is feeding from, the baskets at about over 4 meters above ground level. Now obviously no other animal which is unable to climb would be able to reach that food except for an elephant using the tip of its trunk. And this means that giraffes have got much less competition for their food than most other species do. And this is enormously important. Now, hoofed animals are one of the most successful groups in the whole world. There are very, very large number of species, very large numbers of individuals, as well as giraffes in this zoo. In the African waterhole, we've got zebras, bongo antelopes and Barbary sheep. Further down the hill we've got chital deer, pygmy hippos and Malayan tapirs. And this is only chital deer. And this is only a very small representation of all the wild species. And now they're such a successful group, and they're so good at that human beings have been forced to have taken advantage of them. And backyard to bush you can see sheep and goats and pigs, all ungulates. And when you add to those other animals like cattle and horses, and think about it, you'll at once see that without hoofed animals, our way of life would be totally different. We would not have the civilization that we enjoy today. We're very dependent on them, just like we are for wheat and oats and things for our foodstuffs. Now, the reason why ungulates are so successful and important is once again involved with what they're doing at the moment. Which have got complex four-chambered stomachs and chew the cud, and they've got many other adaptations for breaking down the cellulose and converting it into meat and energy, which we also need. I'll very quickly introduce you to our group. The one on our left is a big female called Nyota. She's old. She's getting on to 23. She was born at this zoo. She's the only one here who was actually born here, and she was the last giraffe to be born at this zoo. Her name is Nyota. Now, she's in beautiful condition, maybe a little bit too plump, but she's in fine condition. However, giraffes are not a long-lived species. Some other big mammals like rhinos or hippos, they can live up into their 50s, but not giraffes. For them, mid-20s is a good lifespan. And when you think about their enormous size and the strain it must place on their bodies, it's maybe quite easy to understand that. Now, this giraffe is even bigger. He is Jimmy U, our only big and the tallest one in the group. And he is taller than most giraffes. Now, he's quite a young animal, in his 7th year still, and he's still fairly slim in his build, so he could still be growing, and potentially he could get bigger. He's already over 5 meters tall and weighs over 1,000 kilos. Some bull giraffes are said to be 5.5 meters or even taller, and weighing up to 2,000 kilos. Though I'm not sure about that, the 2,000 kilo bit. That would be a very big animal indeed. So it'll be interesting to see if he does change in appearance over the next couple of years. The next one is our only youngster. That is, he's Jimmy U. This is Katoto. Katoto looks very different from the others, and she's in her 5th year, so she is not a baby. In Africa, she'd be independent of her mother, but she's certainly got a lot of growing to do. At the moment, she's unable to reach the hay baskets, and that's their most important food. So obviously, she has other sources of hay in that house over there, and then that little food trough on the fence line. So she's going to grow a meter or so before she's a typical adult. And the one walking walking around in the house over there, and I'm not sure why she does that. She's doing that at the moment. They're not particular. They're very well fed. She's not hungry. She'll probably come out in a minute. That is an adult female who's shorter than Nyota, but fully grown at 11 years old, called Giraffe. Now, all these three giraffes on the right side come from our Western Plains Zoo at Dubbo, so they are all related to some extent. Now, what giraffes are all about is eating the leaves of trees, and when you think about it, that's really all they can feed on. A giraffe can reach the ground. They have to be able to get their heads down in order to have a drink, but this is quite a difficult thing for them to do. Just swinging the head down, it works for most animals, but not for giraffes. Their legs are so long that they've got to spread out their front legs on each side and bend at the elbow. So this is obviously uses that time and energy. It wouldn't be an efficient way of getting your food. And out in Africa, it would leave them exposed to a lot of danger. Now, when you look at a big giraffes like Jimmy U and Nyota, you might think that they really wouldn't have to worry too much about predators. It's difficult to imagine any animal being silly enough to take one on. And now giraffes are not defenseless by any means. A kick from a giraffe is extremely dangerous. They can kill a predator like a giraffe by kicking. They can run fast. Under some circumstances, they can outpace a man on a horse. But probably their greatest defense of all against predators is the fact that they are so tall. It means their horizons are much broader than the horizons of other animals, and they've got very keen vision to take advantage of this. Other animals out on the plains know this, so when they're feeding, they like to have a group of giraffes near them. When that's the case, they can afford to relax and just feed away, and they don't have to keep looking over their shoulders every few minutes to see if a lion is sneaking up on them. They know the giraffes will see it, and they will give warning because they'll become nervous and start moving around. So they're like the watchtower on the plains. So this is a really big advantage for them. So what they're all about is eating the leaves of trees. At the moment they're eating this. What they're eating there is lucerne hay, which is sort of a legume mixed with grass. So that's really not a natural food because they probably wouldn't be able to reach it in the wild state, even if it did go in Africa. But that does not matter. We're feeding them that because although we like giving them branches, we couldn't get enough to keep them alive. They are big animals. And we don't have to, because they've got the complex four-chambered stomach, etc. They've got an excellent digestive system. We can give them the same food stuff we give to our other hoofed animals, normal-sized ones like zebras. And so that's obviously a big advantage for us, and all zoos work on this principle. And so they get about 2 bales of lucerne hay a day, which is about 30 kilos. They don't eat at all. What falls to the ground normally gets wasted. Jimmy, you there's going to pick up a bit, possibly. And they get a lot of other foodstuffs as well. But their natural food is the leaves of trees, and they've got many adaptations to help them do this. One is a very long tongue. If you look at Jimmy U, he might stick out his tongue to try and get some of that hay on the ground, and it actually can extend from his mouth for about 20 centimeters. It's prehensile. He can wrap it round a bunch of leaves, pull them down into their mouth, and then he will strip them off the twig with specially adapted lobe teeth. And their whole teeth and mouth and jaws are adapted for gathering leaves. But obviously their most important adaptation for feeding off trees is their enormous height. So let's say they started off from an ancestor of about calf size, and their legs and necks became longer and longer as they began to specialize more on leaves and compete with other species of animals eating the same food, and with other giraffes, obviously. So very long legs and necks, same number of bones as we have, same number of neck vertebrae, 7. Much longer than ours, of course. This is the usual rule in mammal evolution. Now, but obviously it's not just a matter of growing taller and taller, although I guess lots of species would have done it. They had a whole lot of problems to overcome, and one of the most important was they had to maintain an even flow of oxygenated blood to the brain at all times if they were going to survive. So an animal like Nyota's got a heart about the size of a basketball. It can beat extremely rapidly. It's very strong and highly specialized, and they have the highest blood pressure of any land mammal, and this creates problems of its own. If they are to lower their head, as they do constantly as they feed, that means this enormous blood pressure in the brain will suddenly double or so, and this would kill them. The reason why it doesn't is they've got specially adapted blood vessels in and around the neck and brain, which expand, slow down the flow of blood, and then release it again when the head rises. So giraffes have got some enormous advantages over other animals. The ability to reach food other animals can't reach. The ability to see predators other animals can't see, but they've got one very big disadvantage. They're a very large mammal, certainly the world's tallest mammal, the biggest ruminant, and one of the biggest animals in the world, and this is dangerous. Lots of species of big mammal have become extinct during the period in which human beings were learning how to hunt and make weapons, so we may have had a hand in this, and the remaining large mammals are under enormous pressure from humans. Animals like rhino have got extremely low numbers, and they could disappear at any time. Giraffes are still doing better than this, and people take them for granted. In national parks where they're strictly protected from human activity, they can occur in good numbers. However, their population in Africa has just about halved in the last couple of decades, from about 140,000 to 70,000. And the ones left are virtually confined to the protected areas. And because of human population pressures, we don't know what their future will be. Now here at Taronga, we've made a great contribution to their conservation through captive breeding. We've only got a little group here, and we're not breeding from them at the moment, but we've bred about 90 in this exhibit. We got the initial breeding group in, and we supplied all the other zoos in the region with their foundation stock, and we continue to be involved in the breeding plan through our Western Plains Zoo at Dubbo, and there's a lot of resources go into this as we want to maintain healthy bloodlines, which I suppose theoretically could be used to help the wild population if their numbers ever got low enough. So I hope that never happens. It's now time to end the talk and have the Giraffes in Focus, which is a feed and photograph session on this platform. So if you have the right prepaid tickets, could you please join the queue running down the fence line? And if you haven't got tickets, sold out now, so unfortunately. So have a good day at the zoo, and thanks for listening.